And so today's session is all about understanding that frameworks and systems create our wealth, create our well-being. It's never one-off exercise, one-off activity, one-off ka-ching event. It's not one business, one contract, one investment. And for many, many people right now are realizing that their framework that they had in place, or the lack of a system or a structure, has shown that they are very, very vulnerable in this time. So, right up front, I just want to so acknowledge everybody for where you're at. Some people are really finding it tough, and having a really tough experience right now. There are other people who are, stepping up hugely. The emergency service providers, the healthcare workers, all of the people who are keeping our essential service ticking over all around the world. And I just so want to acknowledge, if you're one of those, hell yeah. If you are supporting people by, keeping micro enterprise, maybe in contributions, just hell yeah. For you, maybe just slowing down and whatever this means to you. I just want to say it is so great to be here with you. And I just so acknowledge you. And we are in a tectonic shifting time. And whilst none of us know how long this is going to go on for, when this, things might shift back into a way where people can get more engaged and active in the economy and life, who knows? And quite frankly, nobody even knows quite what will be happening with the economies, or what kind of economies we're going to emerge into in all over the world. There are things that we can be doing. And this is what's so important. What is super important is we don't go into paralysis. We don't go into deer in the headlights, or we don't go into a sort of this limbo land of going, oh, well, I'll wait until I see what's on the other side, and then I can start taking action, because then we never actually do. So this is why we're all here. And it's so great to see all of you sharing, Greg loving the slow down, deep breaths, smelling the proverbial roses. Carla said, great time to learn. Absolutely. This is a time to learn and grow. What was fascinating, there was a survey done, and it showed that 2/3 of people responded of the specific survey that they wanted to use this time to emerge with a new skill. They wanted to use this time and know that they just hadn't sat in limbo, that they had actually learned something, that they had created some sort of structural change in their life, that they'd learned a new skill. Maybe that was art, crochet, maybe there was getting their finances sorted out, maybe all that admin they hadn't gone to, but certainly wanted to emerge, not just having eaten a load and watched a hell of a lot of TV. So another survey also showed that people are sharing now that actually people are more worried about their financial well-being and what's happening with their finances as a result, and that the collateral impact of what is going on right now, of the economic shutdowns, of the stimulus packages that are being put out, and what people are seeing as happening with their 401ks, their pensions, their retirement annuities. That there's far more stress right now than about their health, or getting COVID, or getting sick, or dying. And so this is causing a massive level of stress. And that's why I thought, well, one of the things that I could do is I can jump in and hopefully give you a set of skills, a set of frameworks that you could be putting in place in your life. And there's a great phrase that says, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And we have such an opportunity in times when things are shaken up to really get to see, what's going on. Where have we been neglecting? Where did we know that, yes, we should be putting aside a cash safety net. We should be giving ourselves liquidity. We should be building up that 3 to 9 months basic living needs. Yes, we should start investing, but yes, life's busy another day. And this is a time when we really get to go, oh, okay, maybe I am exposed there. And on the other hand, I've also been receiving so many, messages and thank yous from so many of you saying, and I'm so grateful to you and what you teach, that if I hadn't put in place the structures and the frameworks that you teach in Financial Freedom University and all of in your book, etc., I wouldn't be in the position that I'd be. And I just wanted to, maybe I could have shared this on the screen, but I got this lovely WhatsApp the other day, and this just reminded me of exactly, why I think we should also be looking at where can we help and support each other in this area. And I got a WhatsApp message from, just sharing here, the videographer, or one of the videographers in the TV series Save Well Spend Better that I did last year. And she was just really cool. And in between sets and in between takes, she would ask me questions, and she was taking notes and saying, like, wow, she had never been taught this stuff. And it's true, we just aren't. And she said, and this is, I'm just going to read the message, I just feel so grateful for it. She says, honestly, Anne, if it wasn't for working on the show, meeting you and getting all of your advice, my fiance and I would be in a complete mess right now. The entire TV industry has ground to a halt, and I slipped through the cracks of government aid on a technicality. But fortunately, thanks to you and what you've taught me, I got a little bit more money mindful and have saved for a rainy day such as this. If this had happened a year ago, I'd be in much bigger trouble. And thanks to you and what we've taught, we're okay, and we're both investing now for our future. So thank you. And that, I just wanted to share that because, yeah, while it makes me feel great to receive that, it's also so important for us to know that it's the systems, it's the frameworks that not only create freedom, but also ensure our safety and provide that support. So cool. And Cheryl says, love your new look. Well, I don't think my hair's ever been this long. I'm not sure what we're going to look like by the end of lockdown, but hey, it's a new adventure and a whole new world. So let's dive into today's session. And I wanted to share with you specifically all about portfolio design and really understanding that successful investing and successful financial well-being is 90% about how we design a portfolio and having a range of investments, and never about these one-off investments doing this ka-ching event. So many people try and find the thing. And this is the gambling kind of mentality, the lottery ticket, this is going to save me. But when we truly understand that the wealthy, successful investors understand that what we need are two things. We need diversification and we need asset allocation, two key words. But essentially what this means is we need to have a range of different assets, investments working for us, and they all serve slightly different purposes. So together, they provide a really, really powerful ecosystem that when things happen in the world, some things might struggle a bit, but then others prop themselves up. And overall, when you've got a well-designed portfolio, that is what gives you safety, protection, growth, and make sure that you're okay in short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So that's what a portfolio is a range of asset types, different kinds of assets, and then within each asset type, a mix of assets. So we have diversification. So asset allocation means we allocate money to different asset classes, types of assets. And diversification means within an asset class, so say within investment property, we don't have one property that then is super risky. We have a range of properties in different geographic zones, in different sectors, and also just individual ones. So we spread our risk. So that's diversification. So it's super important that we understand that these two principles are the things that work for us. So I've got a little slide here. So let's see if this is going to work. Yay, there we go. So I've got a little presentation for you. So cool that it's working. So what you want to be thinking about is investing like an Egyptian. And savvy investors are about having a solid structure, essentially this blueprint that provides for their financial well-being. And investing like an Egyptian isn't just sort of walking sideways and looking like a hieroglyphic. It's about understanding that you've got these different four sides, and there really are these four different broad levels to your pyramid. And we have covered before, we know that you are your own greatest asset to start off with. So that's why we've already covered elsewhere, but I'm just going to remind you, you've got to be keeping you in tip-top shape during this time. You are your greatest asset. You are the one that leads your life. What is your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state? Are you keeping yourself fit, healthy? Are you eating well? What are you doing to grow and stimulate your brain? Are you learning new skills? Because at the end of the day, you are the one who's going to be living your life. You are the one who also gives direction and leads your assets. So now let's go through what does this pyramid structure looks like that. So I always like to look at a pyramid structure portfolio design, and it's this one holistic portfolio. Often people go, Anne, is this a good investment? Is that a good investment? And I'll go, well, I have no idea whether it's a good investment to you, because everything you're doing in your financial well-being, including building up your cash safety net, looking at cash flowing assets, investing in real estate, bringing in your stock market portfolio, whether it's in tax deferred or tax free, all has to be designed within a framework and a portfolio that's aligned to you and your life. So you need to design that portfolio aligned to you. So let's look at this pyramid. And a four-sided pyramid is the most solid and safest structure in the world. It's almost impossible to knock over a pyramid. And that's what you're aiming to do. You're wanting to have different asset classes, but also within each asset class, you want to be building these up. So the first asset class is intangible assets. I'll go a little bit more into what that means. But intangible, they're paper assets. You can't physically touch them, but they're things that can grow in value for you and earn income. The next side of that pyramid are tangible assets. These are physical things that you can touch and hold. And yes, like this pen or my super sexy gel highlighters, they are an asset. Tangible assets. So that's that next side. The third side are low input businesses. This is proper businesses. This is not a job. This is a business that you might run. It's a business you might buy and invest in. This could be anything from digital businesses to physical business in the real world, but it's where systems and processes and other people do the value and exchange, and you get the benefit of that business. Because remember, at the end of the day, I really want to remind everyone, money is about an exchange of value. An exchange of value creates wealth. Stimulus and money printed by the feds or your reserve bank does not create wealth. Debt does not create wealth. The only thing that creates wealth is an exchange of value. And so all of these things, intangible assets, tangible assets, and businesses, we got to go, it does this thing, add and exchange value. And then, of course, you. And these four components together make up your freedom pyramid. And this portfolio design, that you've got to make sure that you are putting time, energy, and effort and money to building up having assets in each of these four areas. And so what are the different asset classes? So what's super important here is let me just go back to really sort of in portfolio design and asset allocation before I get to the different asset classes. Whilst those are your four primary big asset groups, one of the most important things of having resilience in your framework is that you also have what are called uncorrelated assets. So this means if all of your energy and money is going into just stock market investing via your financial advisor, who's just putting you into equity, stocks and shares and bonds, it means you have massive, massive risk. And listen, I could have a rant at the financial industry, but most financial advisors, they're just sellers of financial products for fund houses. And that's all. Those are the only two asset classes they can earn commission on, which is why most people have never heard or don't know how to invest in these other asset classes except savvy investors. And that's what you're getting. You're choosing this time to learn and grow. So super important you understand that when you're designing your portfolio, not only do you want these four different asset class and making sure you've got the solid pyramid. Inside these asset classes, also about having this asymmetrical risk and uncorrelated assets. So, for example, when one market goes down, other markets will go go up. Right now, we can see in this crisis, some businesses are being decimated, completely destroyed. We will emerge from this with certain industries, essentially, large parts of them not existing anymore, being bankrupt. At the other time, we are seeing explosion in other businesses. We are seeing unprecedented rate of growth in the knowledge space. And if you've ever wanted at a time to start investing or learning how to create a digital product and teach people stuff using the power of the internet to do that, whether it's through e-commerce, whether it's through creating a knowledge-based business, wow, those are just growing. We're seeing huge growth in things of anything that is do with the internet, as the whole way we work is shifting. So we're seeing massive markets actually growing at this time. So the whole time there are different sectors that are thriving and different sectors that aren't. And that's what it means by having asymmetrical risk strategy and also having uncorrelated assets, so that if one thing is going down, you've got other things that are building up. And this is what gives you your stability and your security and safety by having portfolio design. Okay, so there is a great guy called Ray Dalio, and he has a book called Principles, and he's considered one of the top investors of all time. He's not quite a Warren Buffett, but hey, he's close on there. He has a big management fund, and he says, the ideal, the holy grail of portfolio design would be having up to 13 different asset types in your portfolio, and this would really give you protection. Now, it's very hard to get 13 different asset classes, but let's start with 8. And these are ones that really are accessible for all of us. And, we could actually even say 9 if we added in you having your own business or you're buying a business in terms of having private equity. So the first asset class is equities. These are the stocks and shares. This is what I teach you about in index tracking form. This is where you own a share in another person's business, typically publicly listed companies where you buy via the stock market. And so first asset class. Second asset class you want to be looking at is fixed income. It is super important that you have liquidity. This is about ensuring that your portfolio is designed so that you have cash flow in it. You need liquidity in any portfolio. Cryptocurrencies is another asset class, an uncorrelated asset class. It's been shown to be non-correlated with any of the other asset classes. Investment property. We've shown what that is. That is real estate. This is not the home you live in. This is physical, tangible property that is commercial, industrial, buy-to-rent, residential. The fifth asset class you want to be looking at having in your portfolio are commodities. This is physical, tangible things that the world uses. So this is industrial metals. This can be also consumable commodities, everything from food. Food is a commodity. Energy, so that's fuel, gas, electricity. Things that we consume, all these commodities that are traded and bought and sold around the world, you can invest in them. Precious metals, although they technically fall under commodities asset class, I completely separate them out in portfolio design because they serve a different purpose from commodities. So that's number 6. Number 7 are collectibles. So these are things, but we'll go into one of those, but these are things that would appreciate in value. Most people collect shit that depreciates in value. They collect stuff that they don't need, don't want, to impress other people that don't bring them joy, that just clutter up. So this is not that kind of collecting. This is not hoarding. We're talking about proper collectibles that have an appreciating value. And the final asset class is cash. People so underestimate the importance of cash and having cash, but also having cash in different currencies and understanding the role. So let's dive a little further into each of those. So what you want to be doing is you want to be creating a portfolio, an overall strategy, and go, okay, this is my freedom. This is how I'm going to be investing in this. And we start with a plan. Right now people go, and should I be buying this right now? Should I be buying that? And I go, hang on, do you have a plan? What is your portfolio? Have you designed this? And so you put together and decide of those 8 asset classes. And I'm going to suggest you could also add in the 9th, your own business as a 9th asset class, or businesses that you buy. So essentially private equity, as opposed to what you're seeing here is public equity, so publicly listed through your tax protected mechanisms. You want to be designing that plan and going, okay, how much of my investable assets of my freedom plan is going to be allocated in cash? How much is going to be in real estate? How much is going to be in equities? How much is going to be in fixed income? And so you must design this plan. And you're going to see, so let's go through this in a little bit more detail. So to start understanding what would those percentages be like, so I'm going to separate out now any business that you might have or own or that you're creating, because that's just very hard to determine right now so we're going to be looking at these 2 sides of your pyramid. So remember, there's still you, which hopefully you're growing and expanding, not just from eating too much chocolate. I have to admit, I have been doing a little bit of that, so I'm going to have to be adjusting there. But hey, so we don't only want that kind of growth in ourselves, we want good growth. But if you're looking at private equity, buying companies, it's a very good time to be looking at small companies. I think it's going to be huge opportunities for you to be really picking up some great businesses that are going to need support, or starting and creating your own business. So we're excluding that. So of your intangible and tangible assets, you essentially want to go the amount of money you allocate between those two. You might pretty much say, I want 50-50 between tangible assets, but I'd say your intangible assets, and we're going to go what those are, you want between 50 and 70% of your portfolio. No more than 70% of your portfolio should be intangible assets. You should have at least 30% of assets in intangible, and you might even choose to go 50-50 between intangible and tangible. Okie dokie. So now we go, well, what the hell am I talking about? So intangible assets, remember I said there's these 8 asset classes we're talking about now. I've got to be careful where my hands are so you can't see them. Woohoo! 8. So there are 3 of those 8 fall under the intangible assets. So the biggest one that most people have is in their retirement funding, in their tax-free investments, in their ISAs, in their pension plans, in their discretionary investments, are equities. And preferably, if you're still invested in actively managed funds, please go and watch some of my other videos, or just, get the hell out of those horrible TV dinner things. So you're wanting to design a portfolio of a range of index trackers that cover different geographic zones, different kinds of markets, as well as sectors, and in different sort of currencies. But you want to have a range of equities from around the world. And I love index tracking because that allows you to do it low cost. Your money works for you. But that's the first asset class, equities, shares in other people's company. The next part of this intangible asset class is fixed income. And so I'll go into what those are, and then cryptos. And so those are all intangible assets. Why they're intangible is because, well, I suppose you used to be able to hold a share certificate, but you don't quite literally hold that. You can't hold a blockchain or an altcoin, and you can't hold a fixed income instrument. They're far more a concept which then you get value from. So up to 70% of your portfolio should be in those 3. Now, how do I recommend you divide those up? Well, I believe equity should be the largest proportion of that 70%. And of your overall, I see my little slide. It says tin equities. That should just say in equities. So in equities, you could say, okay, this entire portion of your intangible side of your pyramid is going to be in equities. I think that would be taking a little bit of risk because you want diversification of assets, but maximum 70% of your portfolio in equities. And so equities in that diversified portfolio of index trackers, either using exchange traded funds, ETFs, or index tracker unit trust or mutual funds. But I love index trackers. So you design a portfolio. So no more than 70% of essentially your investable net worth, your wealth generating net worth, should be in equities. Now, fixed income is a fascinating separate asset class. So this is made up of bonds. Now, bonds have been battered and not looking great for the last few years. And when we go into a deflationary period like we are now, negative interest rates where money is being pumped, I don't personally like bonds, but one of the challenges is you're going to see that most financial advisors will have people in an old-fashioned 60-40 equity, 60%, 40% bonds mix, because that is the only recipe they taught, this one-off blend, 60% equities, 40% bonds. If you've got a portfolio with a financial advisor, I would encourage you just to go and have a look at it, and you might see that the balanced funds that are put out, the big galactic phoenix rising balanced portfolio, is classically a 60-40 bond split. Personally, I think having 40% of your money in bonds is suicide, and it's just going to suppress it. You'd be far better having that money off in cash. But bonds fall under fixed income right now, practically giving you nothing. The next asset are loan instruments. So loan instrument is where you lend money and get something back. So a bond is a loan instrument, but you can get more sophisticated loan instruments. You could also be doing direct loan instruments through things like peer-to-peer lending sites. And this is where you lend money and you get a yield, also called a coupon. So a repayment of fixed income back from that loan instrument. Another way to bring fixed income asset classes into your portfolio are things called preferred shares or preference stock. You can also buy annuity-based products where this just gives you income. Certificates of deposit, also fixed-term deposits in the bank, are loan instruments. They fall under your fixed income category. And also things called structured notes. So structured notes are where a investment product is put together and it's held for a period of time, and it gives you a guaranteed income base with some capital preservation on it. Now, what's exciting is more sophisticated loan instruments and structured notes really used to only be the realm of the sophisticated investor or the family houses that had 500,000 US or to $1 million US to invest in individual chunks, because they tended to be made individual, bespoke, tailor-made mechanisms. But again, thanks to the internet, these kind of investment opportunities be made available to the likes of you and me. And they are available in syndicated investing structures, but the challenge is our education so lags behind that for most people, they're still sitting in this mentality of let's outsource my financial well-being to, Hope or a financial advisor. And most financial advisors haven't got access to these, or they don't get fees from that, and so wouldn't be offering that. So you want up to 60% of your portfolio in fixed income, maximum 60% of that, knowing that with fixed income, you bring in income, but you sacrifice capital growth. So it's all a trade-off on this. So the third asset class in intangibles is cryptos. And so cryptocurrency is a whole new asset class emerging. And I am still very bullish on cryptos. I think we're going to be seeing some extraordinary growth. It is still very early days, but you would want to bring in some cryptos into having a diversified portfolio. You want to have some of that investment into the large, what would be considered your reserve cryptocurrencies. This is essentially Bitcoin. There's a big fun thing. It's called the halving. Is going to be happening in Bitcoin in the next few months. That's expected to have an impact on it, but also then have a blend of smaller altcoins. So these are all your other cryptocurrency coins and far more speculative, and you want to use asymmetrical risk distribution with this. This means you commit and you have a very structured, disciplined approach to portfolio design as a whole, as you see, and within these different asset classes. So if you're going to invest in these more speculative altcoins, you need to have a structure where you divide your investments up into small amounts and you stick within that. You don't suddenly go, my, Uncle Superior told me that this company was going to start something. I'm going to, put all my money there. That's gambling. We do not believe in gambling. We believe in investing. This is for your financial well-being. This is not some adrenaline rush. We're not risking something as important as your financial well-being on that. So, some people, I'm going up to 2% of your portfolio, of your investable portfolio in cryptos. Now, when you're starting out, and if 2% doesn't give you enough allocation, maybe 5%, but this is of your total investable wealth. This is highly speculative, but still juicy to have some of it in there. Sarah said, what would be an example of fixed income loan instrument? Well, Sarah, it's exactly what it said. So it's a lending instrument. So a loan instrument is you can lend money and you get a return. In a way, putting your money in a savings account is technically a loan instrument because you are lending your money to a bank and you're getting interest back. For right now, and in most of the developed world, where interest rates are actually going to start going negative, you're going to be deflationary. That is just a crazy idea. But that essentially is a loan instrument. But you can get far more sophisticated loan instruments. So essentially, loan instruments is just where you lend money and you get money back. There are peer-to-peer sites. There are mortgage-based sites, which now, again, the internet is providing access to different kinds of loan instruments. But a fixed deposit with, say, a higher interest rate, CDs, certificates of deposits in the US. These are loan instruments where you lend money and you earn a fixed coupon back. So, and you can also do private loan instruments. If you, really understand that base of your money, you put in proper contracts in place, you could lend money as part of your wealth strategy, making sure that you've got the mechanisms. I'm not talking about to your cousin who never pays back or to this one who's always got a mess of money. I do not believe in lending money. But if there is a structured way as part of your wealth plan, that could be a way to go. So I'm not talking about to your down and out family. And if you want to give and support, that's a whole different thing. That's not investing. Contribute. Okay, we spoke about cryptos. So now let's get to tangible assets. Tangible assets are things that you can touch, fix. And so the remaining 5 are in the tangible asset. So remember, if you want to include private equity or your own business as in these percentage portfolios, that would be included in the intangible asset, not a tangible asset. So tangible assets, first asset class is investment property real estate. So this can be, this is a massive asset class in itself, and I often call it, investment Play-Doh. There are so many strategies you can do, but essentially it's the first form is owning the physical property, where you physically own it. That could be an industrial unit, a factory unit, a commercial office block, a multi-use place. It could be a residential unit. This is where you own property and you generally it's leveraged and you benefit from the capital growth and the yield directly. So owning real estate directly. You can also own it digitally and indirectly through paper mechanisms or shares in special purpose vehicles that own physical property. So this would be, for example, real estate investment trusts or real estate funds. And the cool thing about real estate funds is you can own them inside on your digital platform. You can own them and buy them with inside your tax protected and tax-free investment pots and on your own online broker platform. So that's another way you can own that. And you can also invest in real estate globally and from the simplicity of your phone through syndicated real estate investment platforms. So again, the internet is providing access to these additional asset classes, which have always been around, but historically were only available to already sophisticated investors or investors that already had access to large capital amounts, the good old family money and all that stuff. But now this is being available on those kind of platforms. So these would be platforms like Realty Mogul in the US, Wealth Migrate and stuff. These are syndicated platforms where a bunch of people through basically crowdfunding can come together and invest in a property investment, real estate deal in a different country, in a different geographic zone. So this is how you can then build up a portfolio of diversified assets inside this asset class through the internet. So I recommend maximum up to 50% of your portfolio in real estate. How are you all doing? I know I am covering a lot of information. And so I hope you're keeping track. So the next asset class of tangibles is precious metals and commodities. So I've combined both of these in, but let's cover precious metals first. Precious metals is basically gold and silver. And usually gold is a hideous investment. In fact, I wouldn't even call gold and silver an investment because one, it can't earn income. It was never going to give you yield. It can't grow in value. But what they are wealth preservers. And so it's super important you have an aspect of precious metals in your portfolio as what are called chaos hedges. And many of you have also been saying to me, Anne, thanks for telling me to have some chaos hedge in my portfolio right now, because when everything else gets completely superheated, the market right now is having a bit of a psychotic episode. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's just complete an emotional mess. You want to have gold. And I think we're looking at a period of where for time you really want to be bringing in gold and silver. And you can do that physically. You can own gold bars, you can own coins, but you can also do it in the form of exchange traded contracts. Well, it's an exchange traded fund where you can own a fund that holds physical gold. So again, you can hold that and buy that on your online broker, so there are also some other precious metals, which include palladium and platinum, but I wouldn't really consider them part of your chaos hedge. I'd consider that part of your commodity element. So the rest of the commodities are consumables, energy commodities, industrial metals, things like fuel. All of these are the things that we as humans consume and commodities that we use. And so you want an element of investment in that in your portfolio. Okay, the next class in tangible assets are collectibles. Now, I would suggest maximum 5% of your overall portfolio is put into collectibles. A lot of people love and say, Anne, I want to collect art, and that's my pension or my antiques. I met this lovely chap. Some of you know I've invested in and feel deeply, privileged that I've been able to use some of my own wealth to invest in a game reserve, in providing land for animals and securing that. And I was up there recently just visiting. It's part of the Greater Kruger area, under protected area status. And I met this lovely eccentric dude who's been living sort of in the bush for years, but he's got a scrapyard. And he said to me, no, this is my pension. And literally for years, he's just been collecting bits of this, bits of that. And there's this pile of stuff in his backyard. And when he and his wife need a little bit of money, they go out to town and they sell a bit of steel or a bit of metal. So, yeah, so collectibles can be all sorts of things. I think what's super important with collectibles is you must know what that market is. Collectibles is very easy for you to get taken for a ride. You've got to remove your emotions from all of your investing, all of your portfolio. You're not meant to fall in love with your assets. Your assets are there to work for you. You're not meant to fall in love with that pretty little cottage down the street and I'm now going to buy it and see if I can become an asset. You know your market, you know the numbers, you understand what's the most you should be buying it for. Not so every single one of these, it needs to be within a framework. So if you love antiques, if you understand antiques, that market, that could be a part of your one of your asset classes. So that's antiques, artworks, collectible cards, vintage cars and collectible cars. Comic books is huge, rare books, stamp collecting, timepieces, wine. please just know what you're doing. Jewelry, many people think, oh, I've bought this and now it's an asset, but it's not if there isn't actually a market for it. So I'd suggest no more than 5% of your investable wealth should be held in your collectible side. Okay, so then the eighth, and what I think so important and underappreciated asset class, and I want you to see it as a tangible asset class, is cash. And what a lot of people are realizing now is how important it is to have cash. That some people go, oh no, and I don't want to hold cash. I want my money all working. But we need liquidity. We need cash in businesses for cash flow. We need that base, that buffer. You need cash in the thing called the business called your life. Firstly, as part of your emergency fund, your cash safety net to catch you and give you resilience in case some of your income streams dry up, but also cash for you to be able to respond to opportunities. Right now, those of us who had been building up and always recognize that it's important to have cash in the portfolio are utilizing that, because now we are able to respond to extraordinary deals that are coming about on the market. So you always want to keep some cash as part of your portfolio. And I would say, I've said here up to 10% of your portfolio at any time should be sitting in cash or cash equivalent. Well, I'd actually been having, I had actually a higher percentage of cash. And in times when we had a very, very overheated market like we had coming into this crisis, we were coming for a due correction. There's nothing wrong with holding higher amounts of cash, but I really wouldn't go higher than cash higher than 15% as an overall portfolio design, because then you're starting to get stodgy. Just having cash not moving and not invested actually makes it stagnant, but you want some of it available so you can be investing. So that's actual cash. And part of your cash allocation, you also want to have different currencies. Super important that you also bring in some risk protection from just having cash in some different currencies. So this is actual cash, physical cash you can hold. This is monies in checking or savings accounts. You can also have this in money markets. You can have this again on your digital platforms, your brokerage platforms, in ETFs in different currencies, exchange traded funds that hold different currency through money market mechanisms. So that's a way that you can also get a different currency exposure in cash. And as I said, you want multiple currencies. So there you have it, your sort of portfolio design. So I'm just going to go back and show you this sort of picture. So what you're aiming at always is you first design your portfolio. What is that framework? What is it that I'm aiming for? And then you start going down to the next picture. This is like, this is having the picture of the puzzle on the puzzle box, because now as you start putting the pieces together, you can refer to that puzzle box and you go, oh, that fits there, this fits there. But if you just shove all the puzzles on pieces on the table, you don't even know whether you've got all the pieces, and you don't even know what picture you're trying to create. So you want to create, so the portfolio design is about creating that picture up front. Now, I also want to just cover, if you looked at those and you add those up, you're going to see that it doesn't add up to 100%. So why is that? So the most important thing is every single one of you, Linda and Sarah and Carla and Opinmetsi and Andrea and Jade and Leanne and Cheryl and Elvir, you each going to have a unique roadmap. You each going to have a unique financial framework, because it's going to depend on where you are, what is your current monetary situation. So where you are, where you're headed, what life stage are you in? Are you building up and creating assets? Are you starting to get to a stage where you're needing to feed off it? So this will depend, and the percentage allocation you have, say, to fixed income versus real estate versus your equity will really depend on these two different sides. And so every person's one, and the percentage made up. That's why what I gave you was the maximum percentage. So you're going to come down from that in each. It's also going to depend on your personal risk tolerance and your investment time frame, knowing that some of those assets are far more you're going to have to hold. So say, for example, some of your syndicated investment property deals, you have to hold that investment for 5 years. You can't get access to it. Knowing that private equity, building up your own business or investing in private equity, buying other businesses or into other businesses, those are going to be very low equity, low liquidity investments, but could give you much longer term results. If you're wanting stability of income, you might have higher fixed income element to your portfolio design. So really, I hope you've seen from this, structure gives you the flexibility to build up and gives you your resilience. So you want to have a multi-asset, diversified portfolio, and this gives you resilience and it gives you the most sustainable long-term results. So wow, we've covered a lot there. And so many of you have been asking me about, is the Investor Bootcamp still happening? Yes, it is. We have pivoted and we have changed it from a physical in-person to a virtual event. I am super excited. I've been working with some of the top tech guys. We've been designing what this is going to look like. It's an extraordinary, powerful, in-person virtual experience where you will work directly with me, and we will be deep diving and building up your financial freedom framework, your unique portfolio. We'll be looking at what you already have. Where does that fit into your framework? Whether you should, keep it, dump it, move it, change it, whatever it is, what you should be putting in place. Because what's so important is what we're doing now is designing our future. So that is going to be happening the weekend of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of May. There's 2 sessions, virtual sessions happening the 21st and the 24th of April to get you ready. So they are readiness sessions. So getting you up and ready on your platforms, knowing what information you need to get. So when we dive in and we roll up our sleeves on those 3 days, we are getting this done and dusted. So you leave that boot camp with such extraordinary peace of mind, knowing that you have this piece sorted in your life. So if that is looking like a fit for you, then it would just be an absolute honor to support you on this. Please know that there are limited spaces on that because I'm working with you directly and there's only a few spaces left. So you can go to www or http://thewealthchef.com/bootcamp, and it's an application process so I can make sure it's a fit for you and you are a fit for it. Both ways because it's just such an intimate thing. So if that feels right for you, it would be great to jump on board. So there we have it, how to protect yourself. And let's go. There we go. How to design a multi-asset portfolio. And hopefully you've got a sense of what a portfolio is, where it's at, what you wanting to be designing it, how to think of different assets. So hopefully this has blown open possibility for you. So no matter what's been going on in your world, you can start right now. And what really is important now, it's quite easy for us to sometimes, maybe some of you are going and looking at your investment portfolios and it's feeling very frightening and scary. And what is super important is that right now we manage our emotional state and go, what are the choices I'm making right now? And be careful to not time travel too much. It can be very tempting and it can feel very indulging. We can go back in time and say, oh, well, if only I'd known this before, if only I'd had this kind of portfolio structure inside, I'd be in such a different place. If only. That doesn't help us to do time traveling of regret or self-flagellation or guilting ourselves or side. It also doesn't help us to go, well, going into the future, well, when we're out of this, when the business is at, because you don't know what you're going to do. What's super important is each of us, we are living right now. So I encourage you to go, how are you living well, including, what are the choices that you are making?